Could this be the year that Rutgers finally breaks through and makes a bowl game? Greg Schiano enters his fourth year back in Piscataway, and his team is a lot better than you think. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad that you could join us today as we break down everything you need to know about the Rutgers Scarlet Knights football program. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country. If you want guaranteed winnings, a guaranteed winning record, money right back in your pocket, and the best customer service that any handicapper in the country is going to give you, this is the place for you, as we have beat out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 5 years. So go sign up for those picks today. Check out our Patreon account for exclusive college football content year-round. You don't want to miss that content over there on patreon.com. Become a member of our Patreon Wall of Fame. And send us some gear. Our man Comic Dude, or man Brandon, already sent us some Rutgers gear. Got that beautiful Rutgers helmet on display for today. But we'd love to get more Big Ten representation, or whoever your team may be. Send us some gear to the mailing address down in the description below as we expand our GE Nation from coast to coast. And Brandon, we want to thank you again for all your support, my man. Rutgers alum. Still a proud Rutgers fan. So let's take a look at the Scarlet Knights this year. I am very, very, very excited about this team. I'm not just saying that. I mean, if you look at the numbers here, Rutgers is a lot better than people realize. 4-8 last year, people are going to write them off. They've been so bad for so long. You're going to write them off. This could be the year they finally break through and at least flirt with bowl eligibility, because the offense isn't going to be too bad. 6 starters are back after averaging just 17.4 points per game, but they bring in a veteran offensive coordinator and Kurt Shiraka, multiple stops across college football, even in the Big Ten during some time at Minnesota. Gavin Wimsatt is in at quarterback, and I'm high on him. Wimsatt was a highly touted recruit coming into the Rutgers program last year. Battled some injuries down the stretch last year, started the last 5 games of the year, 757 yards, 5 touchdowns, but was beat up. Started those last 5 games, but he was beat up down the stretch. So a fully healthy Gavin Wimsatt, who was a dangerous runner and a dangerous passer, is going to give this Rutgers offense a huge boost. You've got running back Kyle Mongai back, as well as Samuel Brown. Both the top 2 rushers return. They do lose 3 of their top 4 pass catchers. That is a major blow for that passing attack. But Johnny Langan, who feels like he's been at Rutgers forever, returns at tight end. So this is a Rutgers team, guys, that offensively should take a major step forward. The run game was actually pretty solid last year. And I think the passing game takes a huge leap forward, assuming Wimsatt can stay healthy and just takes better care of the football. Defensively, that is their strength. Schiano is a defensive-minded guy. 8 starters are back on that side of the ball from a unit that allowed 29.3 points per game. And that sounds really bad, right? Almost 30 points per game. That doesn't sound good. But if you take out their performances against Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, 3 teams that are the top of the Big Ten East, drastically better than Rutgers in every other category. If you take out Rutgers' performances against those 3 teams, they allowed just 21.7 points per game in those other 9 games. So that defense is solid. Against the elite opponents, sure, maybe Rutgers doesn't play well. Not many teams are going to play well against those teams that we just mentioned. But against everybody else, Rutgers was playing pretty good defense. Deion Jennings does return at linebacker as the leading tackler from last year. This is a team that allowed just 143 rushing yards per game, just 207 passing yards per game. Wesley Bailey does return as the sack leader on that defensive line, and that secondary has an opportunity to be a lot better than people realize, and allowing only 207 passing yards per game last year is not bad at all. So all things considered, guys, Rutgers' defense, I think, is going to be very salty. I think the offense has the capability to take a step forward, and if you look at the Scarlet Knights' schedule this year, this is a team that needs to do the majority of their damage in the first 8 games, but in those first 8 games, there are enough winnable games for them to reach 6. It's just a matter of whether or not they can do it. Technically, Rutgers has not been to a bowl game since 2014. They did go in 2021, filling in for, I believe it was Texas A&M against Wake Forest in the Gator Bowl, but that was only due to their APR. They were 5-7, but due to academics, it's important, they got to play. But we're going to say they haven't been to a bowl since 2014. They haven't earned the true 6-win bowl mark since 2014. But we're looking at the schedule. I think they start 2-0 like that. They should cruise past Northwestern, a team that's in the midst of this big hazing scandal. A lot of questions on offense against this pretty solid Rutgers defense. A Sunday morning home game for the Scarlet Knights. I love them. They should beat the Wildcats. They're 1-0 with a Big Ten conference victory. And then I think they cruise past Temple as well. They've won 6 straight games against the Owls. Last year, A little bit closer than people wanted it to be. I think Rutgers is like an 18-point favorite, and they only won by 2, 16-14. I think they beat the Owls by a little bit more this year. So they're 2-0, heading into an intriguing non-conference game against Virginia Tech. Very intriguing, right? Because neither team was too great last year. Virginia Tech was a major disappointment last year. New coach in Brent Pry comes in, and the Hokies go 3-8. 3-8, averaging just 19.3 points per game on offense. The defense, Brent Pry, a defensive-minded coach, not too bad, just giving up 24.7 points per game. 7 starters are back on each. You look at the history, people are going to say, give me Virginia Tech, right? Rutgers has lost 12 straight games dating back to 1993 against Virginia Tech. But I'm going to call for the streak to come to an end. I think Rutgers beats Virginia Tech in Piscataway, and they are 3-0. You can make the argument right now that Rutgers, from an offensive coordinator standpoint and from a talent standpoint, owns the offensive edge over the Hokies. It's close. Neither offense is going to be lights out, but you could make the argument they own the edge there. You can make the argument that Rutgers defensively is just as good, if not a little bit better, than Virginia Tech. They've got the home field advantage, and I see this game kind of being similar to Rutgers' big win over Boston College last year. A team out of the ACC that people are probably going to pick to beat the Scarlet Knights, but Rutgers somehow wins a close physical game. They won that game against BC like 22-21 last year. I think it's a very, very close game that comes down to the wire, but Rutgers mentally and physically it's a little bit too tough for the Hokies to handle. And the Scarlet Knights find a way to pull out this win at home. They're 3-0. These two teams are evenly matched, and I like Rutgers here. They're 3-0. Holy cow. They're halfway to bowl eligibility. What a start. Now, I know we've seen this story before. They did this a few years ago. A couple years ago, they were like 4-1 at one point. They utterly collapsed. Will that happen again? Well, they're not beating Michigan, I can tell you that. Rutgers is not going to go on the road and beat the Wolverines. They lost 52-17 last year to Michigan. They held their own 2 years ago in the Big House, only losing 20-13. A pretty solid defensive performance, all things considered. But Michigan, still way too good. Back-to-back college football playoff appearances. This team loaded from top to bottom should beat Rutgers and then probably beat them handily. So they're 3-1. They'll beat Wagner. They're 4-1. 2 wins away now from bowl eligibility. But now they're entering the bulk of conference play, right? The cupcakes, if there are any, there really aren't any. Temple, maybe. Wagner, sure. But it's not the easiest non-conference schedule in the world. But the non-conference is over. It's conference games from here on out. So Rutgers has to win at least 2 conference games if they want to reach bowl eligibility. Well, I can tell you they're not beating Wisconsin. I mean, got at Michigan, at Wisconsin, at Iowa, at Penn State. I mean, a tough road slate. And I don't know if they're going to be able to win many, if any of those. So they're not going to be Wisconsin. New look team under Luke Fickell. They fell to the Badgers 52-3 in 2021. I don't think it's that bad this time around. But Wisconsin across the board is just way too good. And Camp Randall Stadium, not an easy place to play. So Rutgers drops that game. They're 4-2. Then they come home against Michigan State. This is a winnable game that they need. This, honestly, for me, if Rutgers starts 3-0 like we think they will, this is to me, the defining point of the season. This is the defining moment of Rutgers' season if they get off that strong start. You've got to beat Michigan State at home. It is winnable. You played well against them last year, only fell to the Spartans by 6 points, 27-21. I know Rutgers got a late touchdown when it really didn't matter, like 40 seconds left to make it that 6-point game. But if you look at the numbers, Rutgers played good ball. They outgained Michigan State in that game. Barely, but they still outgained them. Put up 460 yards of offense against the Spartans with a beat-up Gavin Wimsatt at quarterback. Rutgers had 224 yards on the ground in that game. They averaged 5.1 yards per carry. Michigan State last year gave up 179 rushing yards per game, and I'm not sure how much their defense is going to improve. Still questions up front. They lose their top 2 players in the secondary. Offensively, they lose their star quarterback in Peyton Thorne, so they're going to have a very inexperienced quarterback there. They lose their top 2 pass catchers from last year. Now they're coming to Piscataway against the Rutgers team that really held their own in East Lansing last year. Questions on offense against this Rutgers defense. I like the Scarlet Knights here. I think Rutgers does beat Michigan State. Again, Michigan State, too many offensive questions. Rutgers defense is pretty solid across the board. A lot of experience there for them. Home field advantage, knowing the urgency, if they can start strong. I don't think Greg Schiano lets this game slip away in Piscataway. I just don't think Michigan State has the talent nearly enough to come in here and steal this win. It's close, but Rutgers wins it. They've got 5 wins, and oh, look, who's next? Indiana. Maybe the worst team in the Big Ten this year? Maybe so. This is for a bowl game. If Rutgers beats Indiana, I think they're going bowling. They won last year 24-17, had 192 rushing yards in the game. 2 years ago in Bloomington, they won by 35 points, 38-3. So they've won the last two meetings against the Hoosiers. And you look at Indiana now, a defense that gave up 34 points per game last year, 449 yards per game last year, 175 rushing yards per game last year. Now it's a team that's made up of like 25 different transfers coming in. They lose like 30 people to the portal and graduation. And Tom Allen is trying to loosely put together a team of transfers. It's a poor man's Colorado. That's what I call them. And they're not going to have enough to beat Rutgers. Rutgers clinches their 6th win before the bye week. Give me pandemonium in Piscataway. Greg Schiano, you've done it again. We've got Rutgers going to their first bowl since 2014. Nearly 10 years they are going to the postseason legitimately. Unbelievable. That's how much faith I have in this Rutgers squad this year. I really, really do. The schedule is so favorable in those first 8 games, with the exception of Michigan and Wisconsin, that if Rutgers takes care of business, and especially takes care of it at home, they will go bowling. The talent is there, and I don't think they slip up against the Indiana team that I think is going to mightily struggle this year with so many key new pieces, especially young new pieces. The Rutgers defense steps up big. The offense on the ground exploits the Hoosiers, and they get that 6th win. They know they need it before the bye week. They're going to get it. Greg Schiano has them at 6-2, maybe nationally ranked, probably not with as weak of the schedule as it is, but 6-2 heading into the bye week. Unbelievable. It truly is pandemonium in Piscataway. I am very, very, very excited about it. And if you look at Rutgers, guys, it's so important, like we mentioned, to win the games in the first 8 games, that you've got to take advantage of that schedule, because coming out of the bye week, they face some of the top teams in the conference. I'll just go ahead and save you the rest of it. I know you're excited if you're a Rutgers fan. They're not going to win a game after the bye week, right? They're not beating Ohio State. They've lost 9 straight games by an average of 42 points per game. They're not going to beat Iowa at Kinnick Stadium. They lost to them by 17 points in Piscataway last year. The last time they went to the Kinnick Stadium, the first time they went to Kinnick Stadium actually was in 2019. They lost 30-0. It's their only second ever trip to Kinnick. And Iowa, way too good on both sides of the ball. Rutgers will drop the ball there. They will lose to Penn State. They are 2-31 all-time against the Nittany Lions. Their only 2 wins coming in 1918 and 1988. They lost 55-10 last year to Penn State, 28-0 in 2021. They've lost 16 straight to Penn State. It's just not happening in Happy Valley. And then I do believe they fall to Maryland. Now, I know that the series started back in 1920, and Rutgers had never lost 3 straight. They have never lost 3 straight to Maryland, but I do think they do this year. Maryland's simply too good. The offense is solid with Talia Tagovailoa, Roman Hemby, their top 2 pass catchers. A defense that's slightly improving, going to be mediocre, but while Rutgers' offense does take the step forward, I don't think they're going to light up Maryland by any means. They lost 37-0 to the Terrapins last year. They lost 40-16 in 2021 with a bowl game on the line. Couldn't overcome it. It finished the year at 5-7. Again, historically, Rutgers, last couple years, they have not fared well against the Terrapins. Despite it being senior day, I just don't see them winning this game, but it doesn't matter. The pressure's not on, right? Like, you don't have to beat Maryland to go bowling. Rutgers, of course, is going to try to win every game after the bye week, but even if they don't, it won't matter, because they will finish the year at 6-6 and will go to the postseason for the first time since 2014. Greg Schiano came back to Piscataway to restore Rutgers football, to bring them back to the glory days. And while this year will not be viewed as one of the best seasons in program history, like many of the years were under Greg Schiano, this is a huge step in the right direction. Takes 3 or 4 years for a new coach to hit their stride. It's year 4. Schiano hits his stride, and you will see Rutgers in a bowl game in the 2023 postseason. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Do not want to miss out on those. Check out our Patreon account for exclusive college football content year-round. And of course, send us some gear. We've got our Rutgers gear as well, but we want some Big Ten gear. We want whoever your team is, send us some gear to the mailing address as we expand our GE Nation from coast to coast. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.